Now we know who's running. How do we figure out what these people stand for? How do we know if we want to vote for them?
Of course, almost all candidates have a Facebook page or an Instagram page or a Twitter or some sort of website. Many of their websites, they will tell you the issues they're campaigning on. And of course, they're telling you what they want you to know. That doesn't mean they're telling you everything that you need to know. So, that's one great resource, but they're a little biased on their own behalf in many of these cases. Some states and municipalities will deliver amazing, sometimes a bit lengthy ballot guides, which will list out all of the candidates as well as blurbs that they get to produce about what they think about various things. So if you're lucky enough to live in one of those municipalities, you'll get one in the mail typically. Just like Jillian said, the local news outlet will typically publish candidate interviews, either by video or in text, where you can watch them be grilled by these wonderful reporters to hear kind of what they're doing. If you're looking for a few shortcuts, look at organizations that you believe share your values. So unions or churches or local causes that you're passionate about. It can be anything. Many of those organizations will post the candidates that they support. So if you're a big fan of the environment, find one of those local organizations and see what they have. Let's say you're a teacher, go find what your teacher union says, your local church, your local community organization. All of those will post their candidates and can give you at least narrow down the list for people to hone in on the candidates that you might be the most passionate about. And if you go to a candidate forum, these days they're all on Zoom, which is wonderful. And you can watch all candidates in a row answer the same question one after another. And besides learning about the candidates, I know when I moved recently as well, I started attending a few candidate forums and I learned just as much about my own city as I learned about the candidates running to represent that city. And so it was a pretty wonderful experience now that everything's on Zoom.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I would add to that list, it can be, or I'll just back up for a second. It can be a little bit daunting to feel like you need to have a good opinion on every single issue that's happening nationally and statewide and locally. And I think that's fair. And especially if you are getting up to speed for the first time, if you really haven't paid attention to state or local politics in a while, there's a lot to know. So I think, as Sarah said, one of the very best ways to learn about this stuff is to attend a candidate forum. You may find that you can't find a candidate forum for an office that you care about. So maybe your local League of Women Voters or your Chamber of Commerce is doing something for Congress or for state reps, but they're not doing it for district attorney or some other office that you care about. I would ask them. If you can demonstrate that there's some appetite in the community to learn more about these offices, that's great for these groups to know. That kind of direct feedback informs the kind of programming that we do. And I think if you and 10 of your friends and neighbors say, hey, hello, Bar Association, would you please do something on these judicial races? I think there's a good chance that they would try to organize it if they aren't already doing it. So check out, actually Bar Associations is a great one if you're interested in judicial races. The other thing I would mention is, however you feel about Facebook, I know we all have feelings about Facebook. If you are on a local Facebook group for the place that you live, this can be a really good way to learn what's going on. It's always interesting in a local Facebook group to sort of see leaders emerge over time. Like people, you can always see who's got a reasonable opinion that sort of creeps in there all the time. But this is a great place to maybe even create a little spin-off of your local Facebook group. A lot of them really aggressively don't want to talk about politics, which I can understand. But a lot of people do. So if contact the moderator of your local Facebook group, ask if they'd be interested in offering a spinoff. You can create your own group, point people over there. As crazy as those groups can get, they actually can be really useful. And I think a lot of this is about not just you learning this stuff, but convincing your neighbors that this is important too. So that's a really good place to do it.
And I might add one more thing. Ask your friends and your family and your colleagues and people that that live in the same place. There's an old piece of advice that I was given a long time ago in my career, and it basically said, ask everybody you know for advice and then take the best and leave the rest. And so ask everybody, who are you voting for and why? And there's a couple things. One, if they don't know that there's election, they now do, because you've let them know, so they're more likely to vote. If they do and they have an opinion, Trust me, everybody likes to give their opinion about these things, and everybody likes to be asked for advice. You're doing them a favor by giving them the opportunity to give you some information, and you're going to learn something. They're going to have some perspective about something that you didn't have. I have a local election coming up September 14th. And I was out and about the other day, and I bumped into somebody and says, "Oh, who are you voting for mayor?" And I got a very, very long diatribe about a very, very detailed issue with the school board, which was what was driving her vote for mayor. And I learned a lot. I don't know if I'm going to vote for the same person, but I learned a lot about that issue. And I think she had a great time telling me. And so you can ask these questions, and then very soon you're going to be the person everybody is asking, and then you get to give lots of advice. Also feels good.
I love it. Yeah, especially when you're talking about things like school board, things that we call them down ballot races, like they're down at the bottom of your ballot. This is where there is so much drop off. So it's just wild how many people will show up to vote for president, and that's it. And they are forgetting about all of these other things that impact your life. I don't want to say that who the president is doesn't impact your life, but all of these other things that impact your life really acutely. So if you have kids in school, or you know anyone who has kids in school, or you pay taxes, which presumably you do, then you care about who's running for school board. And it's not always easy to understand from those candidate guides what people would actually do in those positions. I'll just flag, Sarah had mentioned the candidate guides that a lot of municipalities send out, which is great. And if you get one, they tend to be very useful. You may find that they're full of platitudes that don't really tell you what this person wants to do. It's very easy to say, you want to spend money responsibly and you want to serve the community well, and that makes you sound like a great person, but what does that actually mean in terms of policy? So that's where you're going to want to go to a candidate forum and really ask some good questions. You may find that you didn't even get your candidate guide in the mail. So when I lived in New York, I don't know, I must have voted I lived there for 18 years. I think I got 2 candidate guides. I don't know why. The Board of Elections sends them out. I just didn't get it. So if it doesn't show up, I would be proactive about finding what kind of resource is out there. It really depends where you are. This stuff is all state and local and county. And there's a good chance you live in a place that's really got it together, or you might not live in a place that's really got it together. So make sure you get your candidate guide, and then you'll want to start doing all of this digging that Sarah's talking about.